Welcome back. It's time now for The Clash, and Boris Johnson is taking a tough new stance on offenders in a valiant bid to cut crime. Arguably, his most controversial suggestion has been to make an example of those guilty of antisocial behaviour by putting them in, and these are his words, fluorescent jacketed chain gangs. The PM insisted that offenders visibly serving their communities by dredging canals and scrubbing graffiti en masse is the kind and loving thing to do. However, critics have argued that humiliating wrongdoers will reinforce stigma and do nothing to inspire rehabilitation. I've got a supersized panel for this supercharged debate. In favour of bringing back chain gangs are Henry Bolton, the former UKIP leader and BRITPAC UK Chairman, and Tory MP Andrew Bridgen. But against the move are the criminal barrister Jerry Hayes and former Tory MP and ex-prisoner Mark Johnson, the founder of User Voice. So, Andrew Bridgen, chain gangs, what exactly does Boris Johnson mean by that, and how exactly do you think it will work? I mean, are we talking 19th century American South stuff?
No, I don't think we are. We're talking about supervised community work, litter picking, removing graffiti, a form of restorative justice, which I've been asking the government to institute for quite a while. It will be a visible demonstration, and the public will see that these people are trying to make amends in some way for their behaviour. And for anyone to say that litter picking is humiliating, I mean, I've spent several evenings earlier in the summer with community groups and volunteers litter picking in my constituency, and I find it actually quite therapeutic and rather rewarding, quite honestly.
Henry Bolton, what's your how do you envisage a modern-day chain gang in the UK to work?
Well, let's face it, these idiots, these muppets who go around and damage and deface public spaces, the public spaces that the taxpayer often pays for, people go out and try to make them look nice, and what do these people do? They go out there and trash it. And it's, quite honestly, they're plonkers. And I would quite happily see these people out there putting things right, replanting the flower beds that they've trashed, getting rid of the graffiti, whatever they've done, get them out there in a fluorescent jacket that says plonker on the back. Because I tell you what, these people need to learn that the taxpayer pays for this, their parents pay for it, their brothers, sisters, siblings pay for it, and it's for the benefit of everybody that these places are kept nice. If they want to trash them, then I'm sorry, but I've got zero sympathy for them being embarrassed. Get them out there with plonker written across a fluorescent jacket on their back and get them working.
Mark Johnson, as a former prisoner, how do you think that would go down? Do you think that would make you more or less likely to offend or re-offend?
Well, let me just say that this policy isn't Boris Johnson's policy. It first initiated in 2008 with under Jack Straw, and it got derived from a Ipsos Murray public survey opinion poll, which said the public wanted to be authorities to be seen to do something about crime, but they didn't want to know any of the detail. So in this found wisdom, which based to very naive view of criminality and stuff and where it comes from, the causes of crime, they come up with the high-vis vest that said community payback. So here we got Boris Johnson coming out with this policy. The question is, has it worked since 2008? It might have satisfied people with opinions and actually not too much insight into the causes of crime. But actually, does it work? Does it rehabilitate people when they go into prison? Do they have programs, etc.? And ultimately, do they stop when they get released? And the answer is no.
But Henry Bolton says he doesn't care about that. You committed a crime, you potentially caused criminal damage. He wants you walking around with a high-vis vest that says plonker. Your response?
Yeah, well, but here's the thing, yeah? So it's a really naive view of criminality and criminal justice at the moment. We've just had the pandemic, right? So we've got 83,000 people locked up in prison, a couple of 100,000 on orders, okay? That's 83,000 people who have been on 23.5-hour bang up per day, right? No education, no training, no drug programs, and that is provable, okay? And then on orders, all of that stuff, to whether it's to people to pay reparation, or whether it's to support their the mitigate the circumstances of why they committed crime in the first place, it's just not been there. So to come out with this policy, which is quite polarised and naive, really, about that everybody's like a pest and a menace to society, when we know disproportionately there's a high number of people, for instance, neurodiverse conditions, right, ADHD, in the general society is like 15%, right, of society that have things like speech and language difficulty, Asperger's, traumatic brain injury, bipolar disorder, epilepsy, PTSD, about 15%. In criminal justice, we know that up to 1/3 of people have those conditions. And actually, by parading them in the street instead of treating them, it doesn't take a scientist to work out that it's kind of pointless.
Okay,
and actually,
I hear your point.
Very expensive, very expensive.
Okay, let me bring in the criminal barrister and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes, because Jerry, I guess you come at this from two fascinating angles, because you presumably can understand that this is politically popular, but do you think that it would actually work to deter crime?
Well, of course not. And I prosecute some of the worst crimes known to man in this country. I defend some of them as well. Fact is, Mark is right in that he says there's nothing new in this. It was started by Jack Straw. And in fact, the reason it didn't work at all was because rather than humiliate people, rather than be a deterrent, it was rather cool to actually wear, it was a red boiler suit in community payback. And in fact, it spawned a comedy TV show called The Misfits in 2009, which made it even more cool because they all had superpowers. And what's more, look at what Priti Patel said in her Daily Mail article. This is a relaunch because the government brought it back in 2019. I'm afraid it's a gimmick. I want to deter people from committing crime. This is not the right way to do it. You spend more money on the justice system. You have more courts up running. You have more judges. And that's the way we do it. We give more money to the police as well. At the moment, we have people in prison waiting for trial, sometimes over a year. Now, some people may think, well, who cares? But victims as well are waiting to give their side of the story too. So this is a gimmick. It hasn't worked in the past and it won't work now.
So, Andrew Bridgen, you've heard there from a former prisoner, Mark Johnson, one of our top criminal barristers in the form of Jerry Hayes, and they both say this idea won't work. Why are they wrong, Andrew Bridgen?
Well, the Prime Minister is suggesting we use this for the minor crimes, relatively, of antisocial behaviour, such as vandalism, and or graffiti. I don't think there's any harm in showing people how difficult it is to put right what they've done and make them sweat a little bit to do it. And I think the community seeing these people putting right what they've done wrong, I think it is restorative justice. And maybe if they quite like the red boiler suits, maybe they'll have to be very bright pink. And if people think that's humiliating, then it'll be a government policy. It'll be working before we've even introduced it, because it'll be deterring people from these antisocial behaviours.
Jerry, you want to come in?
Even bought the policy.
Well, I just want to say, you see, Andrew and I, we're friends, but we're on the same page. But the fact is, it exists already. That's why Priti Patel calls it a relaunch. So what is the point?
I'd actually like to see it brought in for prisoners nearing their release time, to sort of bring them back under supervision into the community and basically earn their release by being a valuable member of our society, like the many volunteers in my constituency that give their own time to try and make a better environment for everyone by picking up litter.
Yeah, but we have that too. You see, the thing is, people just don't seem to understand that we've got the various community orders. We've got working for nothing in the community, which is a very sensible thing. We've got the restorative justice that you believe in, Andrew, and I believe in as well. So why bother to pretend that this is something new?
Well, Andrew Bridgen, can I just clarify? Are you proposing something new, Andrew Bridgen? Because, of course, it was evocative and provocative language from the Prime Minister saying chain gangs. Does that mean something different? Is it something new, Andrew Bridgen?
Well, I've not seen a lot of that going on in my constituency, I must admit. I think it would be good for the community who've been harmed by these crimes, and antisocial behaviour is debilitating on our societies. And I think it would be very therapeutic for the victims of those crimes to see people actually out there doing something positive in our communities. And I think the offenders themselves can gain some therapy from it. There's nothing wrong in the community. Many people do it voluntarily every day. The fact this will be as a form of punishment.
Mark Johnson, come back in.
So I'll give you the sort of top line of doing this work for the last 16 years, okay, about community payback. Pointless.
Why?
Yeah?
Why?
So when people get in, because menial things like painting a fence, what I believe the public really want, right, is a political class, right, and a civil service that once somebody has committed a crime in society, they go into the criminal justice system, and they are there's an inquiry into the reasons that they committed those crimes. There is something around facing what they've done within those criminal justice on a one-to-one basis. Yeah, this kind of this idea that everybody knows the difference between right and wrong, and they've got to paint a fence and pay reparation to society by, this sort of punishment. I agree with a lot of it, but it's got to be meaningful. It's got to.
Henry, let me bring Henry Bolton back in, because that's not actually how most of the public feel, is it, Henry Bolton? I think most people actually want to see criminals punished. And they want to see them punished at times through hard labour. And this was what the Prime Minister, by using the term chain gangs, was trying to tap into.
I agree, Dan. I think look, the punishment fits the crime. And we're not saying that the whole prison community should be out doing this. This is about antisocial behaviour. This is about graffiti. This is about smashing bus stops up. This is about pulling up local flower beds in parks, this kind of thing. And the public want to know that their tax isn't just going on repairing what these idiots have been doing. They need to learn, these offenders, that actually there is a response. They are young people, particularly these days, grow up thinking that there's no consequences. I'm going to tell you a very brief story, Dan. Mm-hmm. 2 months ago, I was driving out of a housing estate, down a small road out of the estate. In the road, there is a a traffic island with curbstones around it. There's a lad there about 18, 19 years old with a skateboard, digging up the inside of that traffic island so that he could slide his skateboard down it. I stopped, read the lad his horoscope, and stayed there until he put all that damage back. Now, he's a prime candidate for this. Now, do we suggest that he goes to jail? No, of course not. Do we suggest that the people in that housing estate would like to see the damage that these muppets do put right in an overt manner? Yes. Is it?
So, Mark Johnson, what's wrong with that? What would be wrong with that, Mark Johnson? Surely that would be a sensible way to punish someone who's caused criminal damage.
There's absolutely, nothing wrong with showing people about the, correcting behaviour and showing the difference and having some form of punishment. However, we've got 83,000 people that have been locked up for 23 and a half hours a day, 2 men to a cell for the last 18 months. You've got a prison budget food of about 60p a day, okay? You've got a disinvestment of children's services. You've got a disinvestment of youth services. You've got a disinvestment of residential drug treatment, even day programs of drug treatment, all of the underpinning causes of crime. Yeah. So to put it into naively that that morally that people know the difference between right and wrong, and there's no mitigating circumstances, and they should obey to somebody's opinion who actually doesn't know the science behind it. Because if they did, it would prove that it doesn't work.
Let me give the final word then to Andrew Bridgen, because you've heard that from Mark Johnson, and he actually says, look, the way to avoid crime in the future is to treat prisoners better. It might not be a politically palatable or popular message, but Andrew Bridgen, would that maybe be the way to cut crime?
Well, I think, if we're talking about people hopefully at the very beginnings of a criminal career, which we're hoping to stop them at that very early stage, if people have broken the trees in the park, I think it's perfectly reasonable that they should then help to replant the damage that they've caused. I would like this to be extended to the prison population as they near release, and surely if they're 23 hours a day in a cell, some fresh air for them would be very welcome.
Fascinating debate. That was Andrew Bridgen, the Tory MP. Before that, Henry Bolton, the former UKIP leader and BRITPAC UK Chairman. Plus, the criminal barrister and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes, and Mark Johnson, an ex-prisoner and founder of User Voice. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.